saw this quilt in Kansas on a quilting tour thing that I took, and I thought, you know, I did not know what the Underground Railroad was about. When I went to school, that wasn't in our history books, because it was still segregation when I went to school. And I thought it was interesting, so I asked the lady at Prairie Quilt if she could give me the book. And so she started it as a class. So everybody that took the class that year made the Underground Railroad quilt. And it said it's one of the Underground Railroad stories, one of the most dramatic ones in our nation's history. It's a story about the countless slaves that made their way from the south up to the north for freedom. It said runaways would meet up with the conductor in the dark, who whispered, "Follow me." They were guided 250 miles usually through the Appalachian Mountains, up to in Ohio, and then from Ohio to Detroit, and then to Canada, where there was freedom. It said that too, the placement of various quilt cloths. Now, the quilts that they hung out would be all one block. It wouldn't have had all these different blocks. But the quilts that they hung out for as a signal would be all the same block. And by the quilts that were hung out to air, the slaves would know what the message was and what they were to get ready for. And at first, the first one was known as Jacob's Ladder. And can you see the ladder? And how many of you remember the old song, "We are climbing Jacob's Ladder, higher, higher"? And that was one of the quilts that they hung out that was a signal to get ready. And Harriet Tubman was one of the best known conductors. The person that helped the slaves get to freedom was known as the conductor, and she was probably one of the best. And it said that after she got her freedom, she returned 19 times to the South, and she never lost a single passenger, and she brought over 300 fugitive slaves to freedom. But she never lost a single passenger, and it was her mission to guide them through the unknown lands and care for their needs. Most of these people have never been out of the plantation or where they worked, so they were unfamiliar with where they were going. And she'd tell them to wait in the woods until she went and got provisions for them. And sometimes she wouldn't return until nightfall, so that she would be able to guide them on to the next part. And the station that they talked about was in the north, where they had food and clothing and a place to hide, but it never meant freedom. They had to go on. The Underground Railroad took them all the way to Canada in some cases, and they just went from place to place to place. And they knew where the safe houses were, and those were where they would go to. And it said that as many as 100,000 slaves escaped from the South during the Revolutionary War and the Civil War.